Becoming a praise. Yeah, yeah. Becoming a praise. Yeah, yeah. Becoming a praise. Becoming a praise. Today.
For the word of God, if you have your Bibles with you, turn with me to the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter number 22, and I'm going to read from verse 6 to 8. And he returned to be healed in Jezreel because of the wounds which were given him at Ramah when he fought with Hazael, king of Syria. And Azariah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, went down to see Joram, the son of Ahab, at Jezreel because he was sick. And the destruction of Ahaziah was of God by coming to Joram. For when he was come, he went out with Jehoram against Jehu, the son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had anointed to cut off the house of Ahab, whom the Lord had anointed to cut off the house of Ahab. And it came to pass that when Jehu was executing judgment upon the house of Ahab, and found the princes of Judah and the sons of the brethren of Ahaziah that ministered to Ahaziah, he slew them. This morning, I'd like to speak to you on the oil of judgment. The oil of judgment. From the scriptures where we read, it talks about the son of Ahab. His name is Joram, who went out to fight with the king of Syria. And in the course of the fight, he was injured. Now his counterpart, King Azariah, who is the king of Judah, part of Israel, you know that, said, let him go and see him because he was his friend. Now, his mother, Athaliah, had ties with Jezebel, the entire house of Ahab, and was serving the God they were serving. They had this relationship, and it was them that was giving her whatever thing she was saying to the son, Azariah, and she was in control of the son, making the house of Judah to sin against God. Now, Jehu, on the other side, is God's anointed. God anointed him to judge the house of Ahab and all the evil things that they did. Now, when that oil was upon Jehu, the Bible said that one day the king of Judah, Azariah, went down to go and see Joram. And that was the day that God had prompted Jehu to carry the oil of judgment over the house of Ahab. And when he got there, he found out that Azariah was there and other house members, the Levites, the priests of the house, and he killed them all. While he was killing Joram, he killed them all. The oil of judgment. What is the oil of judgment? It's a special oil given to a man to carry out Lord's vengeance on the evil ones. The Lord anointed Jehu with the oil of judgment and empowered him to carry out his vengeance. What is vengeance? That's Lord's punishment upon the evil one. That is a time when God deals with the evil one, when God annihilates the evil one, when God remembers, opens the chapter of those who have been persecuting you, those who have been standing on your way of progress, those who have been working to frustrate your life, those who have been making incantations against you, those who have been working against your children, those who have said over their dead body will you succeed. It's a day when God anoints somebody to carry vengeance on such people. And for the house of Ahab that have troubled the sons of God, the righteous ones, God anointed Jehu to go with this oil of judgment and destroy them. What are you saying, Pastor? What I'm saying is this: enough is enough. God has sent me with the oil of judgment to pronounce judgment upon the house of Ahab. Who is the house of Ahab? The house of Ahab had to do with the houses of those men and women who have set up altars against you and your children. Ahab are the people who have decided to make charms, to send projections, to send spells and bounds, to go and blackmail you, to do all manner of things to make sure that you are not appointed, to make sure that you don't get that position that is meant for you, to make sure that you don't progress. God sometimes anoints a person and sends him and saddles him with the responsibility of pronouncing judgment. That was what Jehu represented. He represented a man carrying the oil of judgment. In this service today, by the special grace of God, we are going to be dealing with every house of Ahab that have risen up against you. The Bible didn't say they will not gather. The Bible promised us that they will gather. But you know what God does? He raises a man, gives him an unction, empowers him just to scatter the gatherings that are against you. By the special grace of God, I feel the special, unusual oil on me to pronounce judgment over the houses of Ahab working against you. What does this oil of judgment do? It enables a man carry out vengeance on the enemies of the Lord. When the oil of vengeance is upon the life of a man, it helps that man to carry out vengeance upon the enemies of the Lord. Your enemies are the enemies of the Lord. Those that have said that the anointing of God in your life will not manifest are the enemies of the Lord. Those that are sitting on the prophecies made over your life are the enemies of the Lord. Those that are sitting on your star, those that are working to exchange your star, those that are working to frustrate your children, frustrate your husband, they are the enemies of the Lord. And when this oil of vengeance is released, it enables a man to carry out vengeance on the enemies of the Lord. Number 3, when the oil of vengeance or judgment is released, it empowers the righteous to do what they cannot normally do. It empowers the righteous to do what they cannot normally do. Jehu, on a normal circumstance, can't face these people. Jehu couldn't have done it. But when this empowerment came upon him, he was able to face the house of Ahab and annihilated them. Now look at it now. Even the house of Judah, Azariah, the king of Judah, they came. He was able to finish all of them. He could have done that, but because he was empowered by the oil of God, called the oil of judgment, once that oil comes on you, you begin to do the things that you cannot normally do. All those wicked uncles, all those wicked occult men around you that you can't look into their eyes and talk, when the power comes, they'll become just like Goliath before David. Remember what David said, you are nobody. I'm going to show you that you are nobody. You see, when you remove your focus on thinking about how big Goliath is, you begin to see the mightiness of God. And when you see the mightiness of God, Goliath turns to a dwarf before you. When this oil of judgment is released upon a man, it proceeds from the righteous to deal with the offenders. The Bible said when Jehu approached them, they couldn't do anything. They were as if they were bound. They were helpless. They didn't know what was holding them bound. They were speechless. They couldn't react until Jehu beheaded all of them. When this oil is upon you, it proceeds, it goes before you to deal with the enemies, to render them powerless, to render them useless. They can't do anything. In the case of Jehu, they couldn't call their army. They couldn't defend themselves because the oil of judgment had gone to deal with them. Number 5, it deals with altars of the wicked. When the oil went forth, it destroyed the altar. Altars have been raised by Jezebel and Atalia, the wicked occultic mothers and grandmothers. The altars that they raised, the altars of Baal and Grove, the oil of judgment went forth to destroy them. I don't know the altars have been raised against you, but when this oil of judgment is released, it would scatter the altars of darkness. Number 6, it annihilated the enemies of the Jews. It annihilated the enemies. The house of Azariah and the house of Ahab were the trouble that troubled Israel. When the oil of judgment was lifted, God annihilated them. It executes judgment on the cultist. When this oil was lifted, every cultist, every occult man that would not allow the people to move forward, they were all killed because the oil of judgment was lifted.